Okay. Hello, 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 hello. The very first live of 2022. Hello, Georgina Mumbi. Hi. Hi. So, usually, I don't know if this is your first time on MummyMo Speaks. Usually, MummyMo Speaks is brief. So I basically use this opportunity to answer questions that people have asked me about natural hair care, about their kids' hair, their hair, and all of that. Okay? Usually it doesn't take us long, maybe about 10-15 minutes. Thereabout. Yeah, so welcome. I won't waste any time because it's going to be left on the feed for anybody to always come back to. And while we're talking, while I'm explaining, while I'm answering the questions, people usually hop on. So thank you for being the first person on the first live of 2022. Right. I'll just get right into it. So the first question I'm going to answer today, I actually get asked this question a lot, like a lot of the time. And it is, what is the difference between a leave-in conditioner and a deep conditioner? And I have learned now not to take it for granted that everybody knows the difference between conditioners, okay? A couple of people don't know through no fault of theirs, and it is the job of people like me to educate them on what the differences are, what the functions of the products are, okay? So I'll just go straight into it. Hello, Eniola Omojola, thank you for joining us. So, leave-in conditioners. Leave-in conditioners. Leave-in conditioners are products that you apply to your hair or to your child's hair that you do not rinse out first. You don't rinse it out. And the function of the product is to impart moisture as well as some other properties. Most leave-in conditioners would have something called a humectant, which is an ingredient that when you apply it to something, sometimes not only hair, because it's also in skin products, it attracts moisture from the environment. So it pulls moisture from the environment. There's always moisture in the environment, unless you're in an arid area or you're in an environment that is very dry. Most of the time, there's moisture in the air, which is humidity. So a leave-in conditioner is something that imparts moisture, which is usually water. So most of the time there's water as a major ingredient in the product. You have a humectant. This could be different things depending on the manufacturer, and a humectant will draw moisture from the air. And then sometimes they have butters, they have oils. So some people produce their leave-in conditioners and they would have shea butter, they have mango butter. Some would have oils. You have olive oil, you have castor oil, you have coconut oil. It all depends on the formulation that the manufacturer is using. T Kamsi, thank you for joining. Lolade, thank you for joining. So, and then they also have some ingredients called cationic surfactants, which actually help. Some of them help with slips, some of them help with shine. They help to soften the hair, smooth back the cuticle. Okay, so I'll just read out a few ingredients. Okay, so that when you see this type of ingredients on the bottle of something that is labeled conditioner, you have an idea that it's a leave-in conditioner. And just as the word implies, leave-in means you leave it in the hair. You don't wash it out. Okay, it's not something like a shampoo or rinse out conditioner. So most of the time, a leave-in conditioner would have first aqua or water. So in this formulation, this is the Maracruz one. This one has shea butter as the next ingredient. It has castor oil, it has coconut oil, it has avocado oil. Then it now has the cationic surfactant I was talking about. Here they have behedrimonium methosulfate, and then it now goes on to add more oil, olive oil. You have cetyl alcohol, vegetable glycerin. Vegetable glycerin is a humectant. So you see there's water for moisture, there's a humectant, there's a cationic surfactant, and then there are butters and oils. So most leave-in conditioners will have this one. This other one is the African Naturalistas one. This one has water again as the first ingredient, cetyl alcohol, glycerin. Your humectant has come back in. This one has glycerol, monostearate, centrimonium chloride. So it all depends on how the manufacturer wants to formulate their product. But ideally, a leave-in conditioner is a product that you apply to your child's hair either on wash day or daily, or whatever your moisturizing routine is, that primarily contains water, contains humectants, contains emollients, which are oils and butters, and cationic surfactants, okay, and you leave it in the hair. A deep conditioner, on the other hand, is a treatment. Okay, it's a treatment, which means that it's used for a particular purpose for a specific time, and then it is rinsed out. So a deep conditioner, this one you would rinse out. Most of the time, deep conditioners are either moisture focused, where you have like the Maracruz one, or some may be protein focused, but this one is balanced with protein and moisture. All right, so this you typically apply on a wash day after shampooing or after cleanse, whatever method you wanted to use to cleanse. If you did a clay cleanse, if you did a shampoo cleanse, or you use some Ayurvedic herb to do your cleansing. But after cleansing, you would need some form of conditioning, and most of the time we advocate for deep conditioning because it kind of like restores moisture, repairs damage, and all of that. So for a deep conditioner that is usually moisture focused, water would be the first ingredient. In most deep conditioners, some of them are called masks, so when you're buying, it may be written as deep conditioning mask. You know it's a treatment, the deep conditioner. You have water. This one by the Maracruz one has water. It has shea butter again, coconut oil, olive oil. It has the bihydramonium sulfate, has the castor seed oil, centriminium chloride, vegetable glycerin again, and then now has cetyl alcohol, tocopherol, D-panthenol, and then some other things. You leave stuff like this in, depending on the age of the child, the volume of hair, anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes, depending on the volume of hair, and according to manufacturer's instructions as well. This one says leave it on between 10 to 30 minutes. See? Then if your deep conditioner is not necessarily moisture focused, maybe you're tending towards the protein focus, you would have all those other things that I mentioned. Definitely you would have water, you would have the cetyl alcohol, you have the oils, you have the glycerin. This formulation by African Naturalistas has aloe vera juice, it has honey, it has olive oil, and it also has hydrolyzed protein. This one in particular is hydrolyzed soy protein. So if you pick up a deep conditioner or a treatment or a mask, and then you see hydrolyzed something as part of the ingredients, you know it has a bit of protein in it. Some leave-in conditioners have some protein, so you can also look out for that. But note the major difference between a leave-in conditioner and a deep conditioner is that a leave-in conditioner you would leave in, you wouldn't wash it out. So if wash days are 2 weeks apart, you'll be applying leave-in conditioner maybe daily or every other day up until the 2 weeks expires, and then you now have to wash. Whereas a deep conditioner, you apply and you rinse out. Okay, that's the difference. The next question I have is, how do I regrow my daughter's edges? So usually these days I don't like saying the word usually because I don't like it, but unfortunately it is the reality. There are a lot of kids. Hello everyone else who's joined, Miss Haidome, Sweetness, Cakes Art, and Benita. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. So unfortunately, it is our reality these days. There are lots of kids who have hairline issues. Okay, and the first approach I would advise any mother who has a child who has hairline issues is, what is the cause of the hair loss? Why doesn't your child have hair on her edges? Or why are there some parts of the edges that don't have hair and some others have hair? Is it that your styling is wrong? Is it too tight? Is it that the styling is too tight? Is it that the style is monotonous and always going in one direction? So for example, if you're always doing all back for your child and you do all back consistently, you keep tugging the hairline, you may have an issue. Are you using extensions when you're making your child's hair and starting right from the hairline? Are you mishandling when you're detangling and combing? Because even during the act of combing, you can pull out hair. So the first thing is, first of all, identify, why is your daughter losing her edges? Okay, are you using too many gels because you want to keep her hairstyle neat? Are you using the wrong type of gels? Some people use got-to-be glue, freeze spray, all those things on kids, and ideally those things are not advisable. So first of all, what is causing it? Because if you can identify what's causing the loss, then your problem is already half solved, because once you eliminate what is causing your child's hairline hair loss, then you're already on the road to recovery. So if the follicles on your child's hairline have not been damaged to the point where they are dead or scarred and cannot produce hair, and you're fortunate enough that the follicles are still alive, once you eliminate the cause of the hair loss, the cause of the tension, what's pulling out the hair from the root, most of the time you notice that the hair begins to grow back, okay? Even without having like a proper regimen in place. So once you identify that, okay, and then the next step, of course, is to have a proper regimen in place to care for the edges. The first thing would be, of course, moisturizing. You need to have a good moisturizing routine so that any hair that is growing now stays moisturized, doesn't dry off and break, okay? That means, of course, when you're moisturizing, doing the LOC, the LC, whichever one you choose, you need to be applying product to the edges, lightly, not too heavy. When you're washing, you mustn't be vigorous when you're washing the edges. You need to use the pads of your fingers to massage, to just get out any dirt. When you are styling, you mustn't pull. That means you must have detangled gently. And if you detangle properly, it means that when you want to pat the hair, when you want to style the hair, you're not yanking the hair, okay? Another thing is to use a hair oil that you know contains ingredients that usually stimulate follicles. Things like rosemary, or even olive oil. Something as simple as olive oil is potent enough to help your child regrow their edges. All right, for adults, of course, you can get more potent oils that have stronger herbs, stronger ingredients, but something as simple as olive oil can help. A lot of people say castor oil helps. Well, castor oil just makes hair stronger. It doesn't necessarily stimulate the follicles. So if you want to use castor oil, I would advise that you dilute it with some olive oil or some coconut oil to make it lighter, because it's actually quite viscous. All right, so use a hair oil. I wouldn't recommend an edge restoring like a product that says edge restorer for a child. Okay, unless the child maybe is a teenager or something. I wouldn't necessarily advise you use that, but using a simple hair oil or a mix of hair oils, like the Maracruz one is great, the Mo Baby Care one is great, the African Naturalist one is great. I stock all of them so I can put my back behind those products. They are great because they have ingredients that help with hair growth. Then another thing is to massage. After you've done your moisturizing routine, you want to use this hair oil to massage the areas that there is very sparse hair, and you want to do this every day if you can, depending on what routine you have. All right, another thing would be to ensure that your child is using a silk or a satin bonnet to sleep at night. If your child is too young for a bonnet, then they must be lying down on a headdress made from either satin or silk, so that when they're sleeping, when they're rolling around, their edges are not getting snagged on cotton and drying out on cotton. Okay, so it's important. Regrow your child's edges, eliminate the cause of the hair loss. Okay, moisturize properly. Don't be vigorous when washing. Don't be vigorous when handling, when detangling. Try to vary styles that don't pull at the front of the hair. Try to limit the use of extensions, especially with kids. Incorporate a good hair growth oil into your regimen. Massage the edges and make sure that they're using silk or satin. And then the final question for today's session is, how often can I blow dry my daughter's hair? Okay, usually I would ask this mom, why do you want to blow dry your daughter's hair in the first instance? Because personally, for me, blow drying is not something that I engage in often, even for myself. The whole of last year, I blow dried my hair just once in the whole year, and that's me, an adult, not to now talk about a child. So depending on why, if you said, okay, it's because it's a child's birthday, you want to do a photo shoot, you want to have a very nice style, I would say you don't necessarily need to blow dry for that to happen. You don't necessarily need to have blow dried hair to have a nice hairstyle for your child for whatever reason. But if you do insist that you want to blow dry your child's hair, I would then say, what is the condition of your child's hair? Because if your child's hair is damaged, it's always dry, it's always breaking, then if you were to blow dry, you would just be exacerbating the issue, okay? So if the condition of your child's hair is not very healthy, then just don't bother with the blow drying. Don't bother with it at all, because you're only going to make whatever is on ground worse. Whereas if your child's hair is already healthy, it shrinks back very well when you've washed it or when you've wet it. It's elastic, it doesn't break so much. That is when you're styling your hair, you don't have so many broken hairs on the floor, on the comb and all of that. Then maybe you can take a shot at blow drying, but then there are certain factors to consider when blow drying. The hair must be moisturized. The hair must have been detangled thoroughly before you attempt to blow dry, no matter the blow drying instrument you're using. If you're using a rev, if you're using the ones that come like a brush, if you're using the one that comes like a comb, or if you're using the one that you attach to the nozzle of a blow dryer or of a hair dryer, whichever one you're using, the hair must have been properly detangled before you attempt to blow dry. The hair must have been properly moisturized before you attempt to blow dry, and you must in capital letters, MUST, have applied a heat protectant to the hair before attempting to use the heating appliance, because it's direct heat. The heat is directly hitting the hair strands, and what happens when heat hits hair strands is that it lifts the cuticle, so there's a tendency for moisture to escape. All right, but whereas if you've put in a thermal protectant, also called a heat protectant, you've put like a film, a barrier over the hair that is able to, what's the English I can use? It's able to help the hair withstand the onslaught of heat. Okay, so the hair does not react the same way as if there was no heat protectant. All right, so you must use a heat protectant when blow drying your child's hair. Then the technique of blow drying is very, very important. You cannot yank the tool through the hair. With the rev hair, you place the hair into like the nozzle and then it dries. With every other blow drying appliance, there's some form of like tension. That is, there's some combing, there's some brushing, something is happening. And to do that, your technique is very important so that you don't cause damage. You need to start at the tip of the hair, which is the same with combing and detangling, and then you work your way to the root. Okay, so don't start blow drying from where the scalp is and dragging. You would break hair, you snap hair. Okay, and if I would say how often, like I said, I only do once a year. So if you can do once a year, fine. At most, I'd say maybe twice a year, but you don't necessarily have to. And again, your child's hair must be healthy for you to even want to attempt to blow dry at all. So those are the questions that I had listed. Someone says, what's a typical daily hair routine for a 1-year-old? Now, that's a tricky question because you can have a 1-year-old who doesn't have much hair, and you can also have a 1-year-old who has hair that when you style it or twist it is already dropping a bit. Okay, so those are two different scenarios and they're both 1-year-olds. All right, so your 1-year-old doesn't have a full head of hair. Okay, so if your 1-year-old doesn't have a full head of hair, but there is some hair, hair that you can comb, hair that you can twist, I would say, first of all, a hydrating mist, a leave-in mist, something that you spray that is aqueous, that is mostly water-based. Of course, I have stuff like the Mo Baby Misty Spray, which the girls use, and the African Natural has a daily hair mist, which I use for myself. So a mist, but I always start with a mist first, because sometimes I find that if, for example, I've let the hair go on for a while and it's begun to get like kind of dry, just going in straight to the leave-in conditioner sometimes doesn't cut it for me. I need some moisture, more moisture. So usually I would advise you start with a hair mist, okay, or water, clean water, depending on what part of the world you're in. If you're in an area that has stuff like hard water coming out of the tap, you don't want to use tap water. You want to use water that comes in, that you buy from the supermarket in the bottle, or filtered water. Okay, so you start with moisture, liquid, which is water, or you're in Lagos. Okay, fine. So just a hair mist or water, clean water in a spray bottle will do. Then you'd follow your leave-in conditioner, and because your child doesn't have a lot of hair, you don't want to use too much. So for example, if you put that amount of leave-in conditioner in your palm and then you rub it on your child's hair and everything is white, as in so much, you probably use too much. Because if you use sufficient amount of leave-in conditioner and you work it through the hair, it should absorb and disappear. Most of the time, it should absorb and disappear. If, for example, if I'm moisturizing my hair and I put in a sufficient amount, my hair should still remain this color. You shouldn't see clumps of white product still in my hair. Okay, so that's a rule of thumb. So you're the one that has to gauge, because I don't know how much hair your child has. You're the one that knows how much hair your child has. Okay, but you don't need too much because you're doing this every day. If you use too much product every day, you're just going to build up product on your child's hair, and then you find that it's musty, and it attracts a lot more dirt than it should usually attract. When you finish with a leave-in conditioner, there are two choices. Either you use a hair oil to round up the moisturizing routine, or you use a hair butter to round it up. So now, a way to distinguish between which one you need to use is the texture of your child's hair. Is your child's hair fine, or is it thick and coarse? So if it's thick, if it's coarse, if it's dense, that is, you can hardly see scalp when you see your child's hair, then you know that your child's hair can handle the weight of a butter, and the butter will be well suited to help you seal in the moisture from the mist and from the leave-in conditioner, okay? Whereas if your child's hair is fine, it's still looking like baby hair kind of texture, it's a bit scalpy, it's not very dense, it's sparse, then a hair oil will be better suited as your sealant, okay? So I hope that has helped. So daily, you need your mist, you need your leave-in conditioner, and then depending on the texture of your child's hair, either an oil or a butter will be sufficient as the sealant. I hope that helps. Let me know, T comes, let me know if that helps. So that should help. And then if you're trying to keep dryness at bay, because sometimes I find that when you're asking me for a daily moisturizing routine, it's because you're having an issue with dryness. She should be sleeping on silk, all right, at nap time and at bedtime. Baby hair textures still are not full. Great. So oil is best. Oil is best, okay? Oil is best. And you wash once a week, that's fine. Since the hair is still light, it's not too dense, that's fine. That's fine. You're doing great, Mama. So that brings me to the end of MummyMo Speaks for this week. If you joined us later on, I was answering questions. The first question I answered was, what's the difference between a leave-in conditioner and a deep conditioner? The next question was, how do I regrow my daughter's edges? And then the third question was, how often can I blow dry my daughter's hair? And I explained not just how often you can blow dry your daughter's hair, but how blow drying should be approached in the first instance. Okay, and then of course I answered T Cams's question. Lucky her. So thank you everyone for joining. Remember, once you see the graphic of MummyMo Speaks up, just drop your questions in the comments, whatever questions they are about hair, and I will usually answer live either that evening, depending on what time I posted the graphic, or the following day. All right, thank you so much. My very first live of 2022. I'm happy I did this within like the first 2 weeks of the year, so that's a good sign. that's a good sign for me. It means I'm going to be more active, do more stuff on here. But thank you everybody for joining. I hope you were all able to learn something. Until next time, take it easy and please stay safe.